farm already seems to have a lot of deer, as you can see. We know deer are going to be coming out from there. You're going to have deer here, you're going to have deer here. You're going to have a deer within shooting distance anywhere on this plot.
All right, today is my day one, but the excavation company actually beat me to the punch. We closed on this farm Friday. They started first thing Monday. It is Wednesday, and we have already made a huge showing on this property. So today, one of the goals is for Ben and I to go through and do a full walkthrough of every area, every improvement plan item that we plan to implement, and how that's going to lay out, where the blinds will go, where the stands will go, what are the food sources that we're making bigger and why. We're actually adding several food sources. So we're gonna go through the full plan, walk through everything. I'm waiting on Ben to get here, and then also my good buddy Matt Stewart with Stewart Springs LLC. He is going to come in and drill the food plots for us. So all of this is going to happen sort of in a hurry because we're in a race against time to get the food in the ground. But we couldn't have pulled this off if timing wasn't exactly what it was. We're able to kind of come in here and pick up immediately and get this thing moving. So it's just been perfect timing. We have perfect weather, so we can see what do we got to hunt. Let's go. So like real talk, it's real big.
Yeah, it was, but there was some grease issues.
These deer will not leave over here. No joke. All right, stop number one. I'm guessing, I don't really know how many stops this will take, but your design, your plan, what's gonna happen here, why, and how are we gonna set this up?
Yeah, I mean, basically, like, this farm lacked food, you know, but there's times you can put too much food on a farm too. Sometimes you can ruin a farm by going in and taking a farm that's loaded with big bucks and nice and thick and they don't have a lot of social pressure, and then you can give them too much and then you draw too many deer. But this farm already seems to have a lot of deer, as you can see.
They literally won't leave. They're just kind of checking us out.
Aren't scared. So trying to give some options for deer to congregate, to communicate, feed, keep them on the property as much as possible so they're not going to the neighbors. And you know, the design of this is we kind of just already did with what the lay of the land gave us to work with. Wasn't too hard. They left this big maple tree in here. I might have left maybe one or two of them cherries, just a little more structure that they pushed out, but it's okay. But I would definitely put like a scrape tree or a water hole up here yet somewhere. Yep. You know, to give them a water source, don't you think?
Yep.
You know, kind of make so that way they're not always having to go to the bottom.
Well, that's what I wondered, is if he couldn't just
Jam that up
yep,
right there.
I mean, he totally could,
Yep.
and just swell that up, and then it would
You'd
feed
have it all
itself.
up here then.
Yeah.
They
And
wouldn't
then
have to go to the river.
yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, you're trying to keep your deer up here, and that's the beauty of how, like, when we get these properties, how we lay them out, because this is done for you. So like, you have to understand that that's value. Like, you're not dealing with contractors, you're not dealing with trying to tell people how to do all this stuff. Like, it's done. Now you may want to make adjustments, and that's fine, because as you hunt it yourself, you'll learn that there may be something different you want to do and that we can't see now because we're not hunting it.
Yep.
This is just going strictly by the maps and what we know about deer and land structure and you know, how we want to plant things. And
So where, if you can talk about, we'll show on the map, but basically this blind is left. It's the seller of the farm is coming to get this, and that cherry tree will be gone as well. That was all, Justin was just afraid to push on that tree with that blind still being there. So they're gonna make all that go away. But where's the blind going? And you know, if you can talk about kind of why did we push brush that way, those kinds of things.
well, so you got the neighbors over this direction, you know, trying as much as possible to somewhat detour the deer from leaving the plot or making an easy route to get onto the neighbor's property. You know, we're trying to get the deer to bed, you know, on this property as much as possible. It's kind of like it's somewhat of a diversion to a degree, but it's not going to completely keep them out. But, you know, I feel like keeping the mess and the debris as much as possible in areas that you don't want the deer to travel can kind of push the deer how you want them to come into the food source. Because like, you literally could have a blind on this end or a NOVIX tree stand if you want. You can have a blind over there, whatever you want to do. They don't have the blind in a horrible spot here, but like, I kind of like to be able to access stuff. And if we're going to end up getting a water hole in here, then that means you're going to have a nice little green spot over in here somewhere. I would think it'd be imperative to have a blind somewhere closer to that water hole or a stand in that tree, You could have.
So we were going to put one up here. Where would you put it? I mean, so we have 3. I already have 3 that are coming.
Yeah.
So you can put one here wherever you want. We originally had planned over there, like with that access coming off the, you know, that gas line hill. But I don't mind either. Like, that's totally up to you.
I personally think I would put it close to that big tree.
You would.
Or you put it on the edge here, like I said, and now if you're feeding deer, which is legal in Ohio, if you're like, but you're still gonna deal with deer being.
Absolutely.
That's the hard part about baiting deer.
Yeah,
That's why I would almost rather not, if you could help, but doing that is just try to kill these deer naturally so you can get in and out, let them go and do their thing.
Crazy question.
Absolutely.
Would you ever put a NOVIX in that maple?
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're,
especially if that's a water hole.
right, if you're not moving a lot in that tree, like,
Yeah.
I'd almost rather be in a stand in
Yeah.
that tree than a blind.
I would be. That's what I would do.
Because then you can shoot 360.
Plus just the way of the contour, the deer are gonna move right here. I would not push that tree out.
You wouldn't? Okay, well, I'll tell him.
Would
He'll
you?
be glad not to.
I wouldn't. No. No, I think you just said it in the very beginning. You need structure. You need
Deer like
structure in it.
fish.
If this was my setup, I would have some kind of, if you're going to hunt that right there, your access is either going to be there or right here. Switchgrass, Egyptian wheat, something to screen it to get into here. And like he said before, baiting, yeah, it's great, but everybody baits. Everybody baits, and it's so hard to get in and out of stands because those big bucks, when the pressure starts getting on, they're going to go nocturnal.
This is something I consider a secondary zone. They know when they come to the open or walk these roads, there's a chance they're gonna encounter somebody or human scent. So it doesn't completely freak them out when they smell a track here. Like, it's kind of normal. You start getting off that hillside down in there or off into the timber,
True.
It's totally different.
And I think too, with what you just said, if you open up an area, you can do, like I do this all the time at the mulcher. I go right in the middle of a patch of woods and you think there's never gonna be a deer walk through there. Come back the next day, they're tracking it all up. They're curious. I mean, this is their
logging.
backyard.
I mean, that's what I do is cut timber, logging, and they're like standing there eating the leaves off the trees.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and we talked about an e-bike here too. I mean, if you
Oh, yeah,
can bike off of
100%.
this. All right, so on this, before he jumps in and starts to say, all right, what are we planting and all that, NOVIX in there. What are we gonna call that? The Hawk's Nest? NOVIX there, blind here. Do you want another one somewhere else? Another NOVIX?
I mean, if anywhere, it would be on that,
On that
point,
road that
because
comes
you know
up.
those deer coming that
Yep.
direction if you was going to put another one here.
Okay.
But I don't know that you always want to be just right on the food. I mean, it could be, you might
Right.
want to have one back in where they're coming to it. Like if you hunt your deer too much on the food, you keep them from coming to the food before
Right.
dark.
Mm-hmm.
And then it totally eliminates the whole purpose of trying to hold your deer on your property.
All right, so we're gonna allot 2 NOVIXes here and a blind as a start.
I think people get too locked in on gotta hunt food.
Right.
You know,
Well,
a lot of times those really bigger deer, you'll kill them
Going
on that
to
little
food.
ridge back in there,
Yeah.
coming to this.
Staging to come out to here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I think this shouldn't all just be food though. Like I think sometimes you need to have some bedding grasses mixed in different corners.
I agree.
But like diversity.
So what do you do phase
You're way-
1 then? What do
You're
you
way
do?
more knowledgeable than I am, but here's what I've done on my farm. It's really worked. I moved to a farm, wide open fields, 30 acres of tillable fields, wide open. You can see everything. But I started letting the edges grow in a little bit. What that's done is now the bucks, the mature bucks, when they're staging, they're getting ready to come out into a food source, whether it's chase a doe or whether it's to eat. They're coming out into a shooting area 15 minutes before, which we all know 5 minutes can be it. I mean, that's all you need. So, you know, a little skirt, you know, and if
So how do you do this though with what we're gonna do here? We obviously don't have time to season the skirt. We don't have time.
Yeah.
So what does that look like to build this into a plan that we're all like, yep, that's, you know what I mean? That's
yeah,
the
well,
plan.
I mean, it just starts. I mean, so like this year, like you literally could, when he's planning this now, like you could, you know, you're probably gonna have some established clover here would be my guess, is what you're gonna want to do to somewhat, to where somebody doesn't have high maintenance all the time. They can come in and mow it or spray it. They don't have to replant every year. Then maybe they could have another green section. I don't know. Like that's all dependent on how you guys want to set it up. But some of these corners like this, I would definitely leave into some soft grasses that can be rotationally mowed, because those deer just love to bed in that stuff. They'll go out, eat for a while, they'll come back, lay down.
here's what I've been doing that's been working out really good in the fall. It doesn't matter where you're at, it draws them in. It's got a little bit of everything. I think we talked about it. Oats, drilling them. Peas, so about 100 pounds of oats per acre, 25 pounds of Australian winter peas, 25 pounds of forage soybeans. I know that they're not going to get real, you know,
Right.
but just something that for them to be in
Sure,
here
well,
early.
a bean
okay?
in its
Drill-
initial state is
drill
the
all
best.
that, drill all that, come back over and overseed with cereal rye. You could throw clover in there if you want, if you think you're gonna hold it or whatever, and you wanna throw some clover in here, you could throw some clover in there. And brassicas, you've got a buffet of everything. The fawns are gonna be dropping in these fields right here, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree. So like here we was talking about this other point, like we know deer are gonna be coming out from there. You're gonna have deer here, you're gonna have deer here. You can see that big bushy maple tree or cherry tree down there at the end. Can't tell from right here, but that's a great place to have a stand location, you know, especially if you've got some scrapes under that one overhanging tree right there. You know, I just feel like deer are gonna work these edges no matter what. You're gonna be in the money sometime through the evening or a morning. You're gonna have a deer within shooting distance anywhere on this plot. I mean, it's just set up just perfect the way it's got this bend in it too. For me, it's when I know a deer is doing something, that is an attack spot.
Well, and you're so right, because when you add the pond there, you're bringing the deer in by default. They're not going to go through it.
Yeah, it's not like you're just
They're going
coming
to
up
have to
here.
go around it.
For me, it's not like I'm just going to be like, you know what, I'm going to go hunt that tree.
Right.
We are in the bottom of this Meigs property, and we got a lot going on, as you can see in the background here. Getting with it. So Justin's definitely doing his job and doing a lot of work, making a lot of progress fast. But this bottom is going to be a really long food source that's tucked down in here by the creek. Obviously, these areas can be a little tough to hunt with wind thermals and things like that, but it just gives us another option on this farm, and for you, the new owner, to have a place that your deer can congregate, stay on your property before dark, and not leave it. You got all the bedding up the hills in between the big plot we were just on, the cherry plot we call it. We're keeping the deer in here is what we're trying to do. This is going to be a great spot to have a blind on, keep your wind a little better there. There's definitely going to be plenty of trees along these edges to stay on the high side to hang tree stands in. And if you've got the right wind, you literally could blow your wind the whole way down this plot at some point, like keeping it where you want. But see, we've got these willows, little swampy areas. This is where your bucks love to bed this time of year.
And that's that beaver dam area.
Yep,
So I
it's
think
nice
you
and
could
cool.
blow your
Yeah.
wind in there on purpose.
But you're gonna get bucks looking for does here, cruising during the middle of the day. You're gonna get a giant on the middle of this plot in the middle of the day.
So basically what happened when this has been going on for 20 years here, the beavers that have constantly just worked in this hollow, but I think we can utilize this to our advantage because you could put your blind here, you know, or you could start it here, and you, with a west wind, it's going to come down the creek. So obviously if deer are coming through the property to get out to the front, you know, we're just bringing them that way, but your west wind's going to blow in the creek where I think there's very low likelihood of deer crossing in all that nastiness when they can cross up here.
And they're gonna bed tight to this plot. I mean, like if you've got a buck that really likes this plot, he ain't gonna bed far from this. He's gonna be pretty close to it. Especially if the girls start using this, there's gonna be scrapes lined up and down the edges of this. And you literally, with a bow, you can shoot across this whole plot anywhere, which is really cool.
Yep. So what would you put in here? What kind of food source? And
I think it's long enough that you could have multiples if you wanted to. Like you could have a clover that's gonna be a, you know, perennial every year. It's already here. All you gotta do is maintain it. And if you wanted to mix some green in there, like fall greens every year, or some kind of winter type plot, you can do that too. It's gonna give you a lot of options as the new owner as to how you want to set it up. We're gonna kind of give you the starting point, but it's gonna be up to you to, you know, decide how you want to take it from years on in and turn it into your dream property even farther. But a lot of the heavy handwork is gonna be done for you. I think the thing is like maybe the new owner could always have Matt fulfill the plan.
Yeah,
and that's what we talked about
next
earlier.
spring,
Is
you know.
he's local to here. He can roll out a longer term plan.
Springtime, I mean,
You're what, 20 minutes from here, Matt?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, so like if somebody buys this, you got the guy right here to help you get it done if you don't have the equipment.
Sure.
So what we've got here is we've got a ridge right now that this has been logged pretty hard. You can see there's just some really small white oak and stuff growing here. we're gonna turn this into a small kill plot up here. There's a water hole over here, an existing water hole. This spot is gonna be kind of narrow, so you'd be able to hunt this ridge pretty much either side, but we're gonna make an access up this backside to be able to get into one of these trees. We've got a tree flagged over here that could be a good spot for a tree stand. Probably gonna ask them to leave a couple more small ones here just to kind of give a little breakup of an outline here, because you don't want to just have one tree all by itself. It just stand out too much. The only reason that first plot it works is that tree is so big. I feel like plots need to have some structure in them sometimes, even especially when you're making a new plot in the woods. The big long narrow plot is just below this down in the bottom. So you're gonna get deer working between the two and working this ridge. But this is gonna be one of those great spots where you could have some scrape lines and you're gonna get a big deer working this up here. I'm almost positive what we're gonna end up having on this farm is different deer using different plots at different times of the day. Different groups of bucks. That's what I really like about this farm. You could have 2 or 3 different mature bucks living on this farm, and they don't really have to see each other if they don't want to. Plus, you've got all this timber to the back is on the neighbors that is feeding this farm. And we're gonna suck those deer to this one. So you're gonna take advantage of that. I mean, it's just gonna be a good spot. Like, this could really be the best spot on the whole farm, in my opinion.
We've talked about, we're placing 3 blinds on this farm. So Ben, if you're looking at, all right, we're gonna place 3, is one going here?
I would think you should have one here because, like, we can have a tree stand on this side. You probably could get one here too, but I'm thinking maybe behind the water hole back here is having a blind.
Okay, do the blind there.
Yep.
Well, that would even help too to kind of, I'll show you.
Because then you can climb up that backside too if you need to.
Well, and you're running out of space on the ridge there with the tree that we were picking. There's a white oak there, but it's like 17 yards to the water. So if you remember us talking about
making a windrow.
Yeah, so if you want to dive in on what you think that should look like.
So, like, I mean, as far as, like, we're going to take a lot of this debris, got it. So all these trees that are standing are going to be laying. So we're going to pile them up here to a degree towards the neighbor in a sense, but also make it to where the deer kind of got to walk around the point of it. So they'll be between the blind, the water hole, and the windrow, the barrier. So it should give you a really good bow shot. Anybody gun hunting out of that blind is going to be able to pound anything on this plot. Here, depending on what kind of wind, so you know you got a big buck working this, you know, your cameras are saying that deer is using it now, but you got the wrong wind. So which would be, you've got west, east, north, and south. So you would definitely, on a south wind, you'd have to hunt this side of this ridge. So if you've got a south wind, but you know that buck's working here, then you're gonna need to hunt that tree stand.
That stand changes to almost a staging area to hunt. Correct. You know, you're not hunting over the green.
And you might wanna leave, like where that deer bed was, you may wanna leave a little bit of this just for some cover as you're coming up that road. But like definitely like right in here, definitely mow this out to blend with that.
Okay.
Just get this to where the deer can be around this water hole very comfortably and easily. They can use it from all sides. These trees are here. It'll just give them that natural feel.
Security.
Yeah, it's like fish, man. They're just like fish. You may want to like make a V right here, like make it to where they got to come to the side of the water hole.
Right. Yep. Right.
And that way they're not coming in here.
Yeah, drop them in right here. Yeah. Yep, drop them in right here. You know that thing's getting thrashed if we leave that little tree. You know that's getting thrashed.
But you know, like.
So, but you're okay, like that hickory, like that stuff's getting taken out.
Yeah.
Like out to like, see that tree that the top's out of? Yeah. About that far? Is that about what we're doing?
Yep.
And then everything out behind it gets mowed. All that becomes staging. All this is mowed. This is mowed. It's just like a 3-part process. Bedding back farther, coming into mowed stuff. I'm still not scared. I'm into a green food source.
Yep. This spot here is kind of like in the center. Like all these ridges come together. You got the long skinny plot back here. You've got the far west end with the top plot. Cherry Ridge plots up this way, then the front of the farm. This is like right down, the creek's down in here, this low area. You've got bedding ridges. We're not gonna plant anything here. We're gonna let this grass grow up, but this is a spot that a lot of deer are just gonna walk through. Just naturally walking through, going places. Gonna put a mock scrape underneath this little hickory tree. Got a great stand site right there for a NOVIX tree stand in that double soft maple back there. And in that corner there, just depending. But this is a spot where I just run your cameras, let the Spartan tell you what's going on. This is how you kill really big bucks a lot of times. A lot of times you don't kill them right on the food. You kill them going to and from, or those ridges in between food plots. Find those staging areas, acorn flats, whatever. But cameras on those spots where they're working scrapes can tell you a lot, like when those deer are getting more active. And that can be, you know, really helpful.
Well, that main road we're gonna cut is gonna be right here as well. So your entrance to this, your access to this,
Super simple.
even though this is deep in theory, this is still pretty deep. We're making it way less burning because we're putting that road in against the edge of the property.
Yeah. So this is the biggest opening on the farm, and this is the very front of the farm. This is what you could consider a destination food source, but this has a lot of opportunity for somebody. We don't have that opportunity right now. It's too late in the game. But like my ultimate goal would be in that back corner, I would have a small green plot, whether it be a clover plot that was established with a little bit of grass around the edges or leading to it, so they'd have a staging area, comes into the clover, then out to like a corner beans out this way with some screening to get into your spots. You can have blinds here, but again, always keep in mind that those deer can bed right there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you can throw it all in there. You can throw the whole buffet at them. And a plot this size right here, you do oats, peas, rye, brassicas. I mean, you can have a whole mix and buffet. I mean, but I think up on the top, doing the kind of the same thing that we do here, but then down in that bottom, it's a long field, so we think that we might be able to set up a gun hunter or muzzleloader hunter. I think maybe doing the radish, the brassicas mix back there with some cereal rye, so they got something a little later. From my take on planting rye and oats, I feel like the rye kind of stays a little more hardy than the oats do sometimes. So I think having that late in the game is a key factor.
Okay.
Let's just wrap this up, why this Meigs County farm is so good real quick. You're taking a piece that was all timber, okay? And basically it was logged a little bit back in 2019. It's got a ton of browse in it, a ton of cover. It's already holding deer. There's already big deer here. We're just enhancing it a little bit by giving some more food sources, a little easier access, sprucing the farm up, doing all the hard work. This area is well known for the genetics of what kind of deer it can produce. Tyler's grandparents owned a small piece right beside this farm years ago. So right there is even a tidbit of information that Tyler knew, that like, he knows the kind of deer that are taken off this. I mean, there's a 196 shot off this place 2 years back. They found numerous booners laying dead in this farm over the years that have either been wounded or died from old age or disease, whatever. So this is an exciting farm. There's proven history with this farm. The work that's been done to it is just going to make it all the more better, and it's going to make it a lot easier for you. And you've got the river. Everybody knows the Ohio River. Anytime you can get close to the Ohio River, it seems like your genes are just really good. You've got fertile soils and dirt, and that's what you got here. Ohio River bottom crop fields feeding these deer. It just doesn't get a whole lot better than that.